Shalom, brother and sister truth seekers. We have another opportunity ahead of us here to potentially learn something about the Creator's times. Just showing this in case you want to kind of read some detail. You can pause this, but I'm not going to linger here. I'm just going to hit the highlights. But let's see. So the general idea is, I guess if you live north of the equator, it's the longest day of the year that's coming, and if you live south of the equator, it would be the shortest day of the year. But it's referred to as a solstice event, and all it is the sun is hitting an extreme position in heaven. So we all know that the sun travels east and west every day, but it's also it appears, from our perspective on Earth, it appears to be oscillating north and south as well of the equator between the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn. So it's when the sun is close to us in a north position. If you live north of the equator, you're getting summer, and if it's down south of the equator, you're getting winter. And there are just these three extreme positions the sun can sit in over the course of the year, and that's the northernmost position, solstice, the southernmost position, solstice, and then right in the middle on the celestial equator. And that's what we see during the equinox events, and you see like the straight line test. But anyway, so the thing is, these checkpoints of time are happening all around the world, and the thing that we're looking to potentially confirm and understand, one of the things is where the Creator's international date line is. That man-made squiggly line out in the Pacific Ocean is just definitely man-made. You can tell it's just for man's convenience. And so the question is, well, where is the Creator's true international date line? Where does his time actually begin? And I think it's his unique design, this 365.2 days in the year. It's the extra 0.2 that actually causes the Creator's international date line to shift every year. So let me see if I can. So if you look out here to the right in column R, this was data collected around the world, Sundial data in the spring of 2023. This was in the fall of 2023. And then there were projections for where we would see it in the spring of March 2024. And I mean, there was a pretty good spread of data for these first two spring and fall equinox event, and you could see the first people to see the straight line seemed to be in the central United States in the spring of 2023, and then half a year later, it seemed the first people to see the straight line were out on the West Coast, even beyond the West Coast. Actually, I think the West Coast of Canada. And then it was anticipated we would see the first people to see the straight line this spring would be down in this neck of the woods. But unfortunately, this past spring, let's see if I can find a picture here. What would that be? There was just, unfortunately, it was great to see so many people trying to collect sundial data around the world, but there were a lot of people that it was they were new to collecting sundial data, and it was just, unfortunately, from this zone, from this green line to this green line, I just could not say with 100% certainty who was seeing the straight line on what day. Like if you this spreadsheet that has all this data is available online, and there are summary videos that I talk through everyone's data in depth. You can see some of the notes here, but it was just a little back and forth, and unfortunately the big thing was just not enough hours of data. Like, you really need as many hours of data to confirm that straight line. Like really a minimum of like 9.5, like 10 is like really 10 and plus is really what we should be aiming for, if at all possible. But so anyway, unfortunately it was hard to say from this past spring. So people made their decisions on, when that spring equinox event happened, and the calendars kind of run from there. Different calendars, all the calendars, pretty much all the calendars need to know something about the spring equinox event, whether it's lunar, whether it's solar, whether it's these Dead Sea Scroll, whatever it is. Like they pretty much, they all have to know something about that spring equinox event. They have to know something about the movements of the sun to kickstart the year. But anyway, so the it's important to know the equinox event. It's important to know who sees it first. It's important to know where the Creator's international dateline is. And I think it shifts every year, and so it was hard to say this past spring. But the cool thing is, as the Creator's international dateline progresses over the course of the year, you have a chance to double check and to confirm. And it's really only been lately, like in the past year or so, that we've started to have a lot more people around the world collecting sundial data, that we've been able to kind of fine tune and understand where the Creator's international dateline is. And I just want to say, there's nothing. This effort is to kind of just to understand. It's a deeper level to understand and to help people around the world who might not have been able to collect sundial data. Maybe they were clouded out or something. But the best thing anyone can do is just to confirm it for themselves. We don't need to extrapolate all these lines and stuff. If someone is able to collect it for themselves, that's all they need. But in an effort to help people who might not have been able to collect for data for whatever reason, we're trying to track this and project this and help to understand what those timepieces are doing for people around the world. And so the thing is, these are showing equinox events. This is March equinox, September equinox, March equinox, and that's what these red lines are marking, is the location of the person who saw the equinox event first. So the thing is, if you look, it's half a year from this equinox to this equinox. That's half a year. So somewhere between there, a quarter of a year is where the solstice event would be. So somewhere right around here in this column E, approximately, according to this trend of data, is where people would have seen a solstice event. The first person would have seen the summer solstice last year. Would have probably been between these two. And then likewise, from this red line to this red line is another period of 6 months, but right between there, the quarter of a year, is where the other solstice would be, winter solstice. But it kind of, the Creator's international dateline is progressing, and so these are tracking the half year increments, but on a quarter year increment, you should see the solstice following that trend as well, I imagine. And so that's kind of why I say it's useful to help us potentially understand what happened this spring as an additional witness. I know if it were me, I don't know. It was just a really tough call. Thankfully, the United States had a lot of good data this year. So, and I live in West Virginia, so I feel pretty good about the timing of the start of the year. But I just wasn't able to say with too much certainty for the people that live in this zone. So, all that to say, this solstice event is another opportunity to confirm where that Creator's international dateline might have been. Because I think some people may have assumed, because they didn't know what was happening out here, I think they assumed the Creator's international dateline was way out here this spring, like maybe in this zone or in the Atlantic somewhere. But I think, so if that's true, for the summer solstice event, we would expect to see the Creator's international dateline to have shifted a number of time zones to the west, because it progresses a little bit every year. So if we look at that map over the course of the year, so this was the spring. Say I didn't extrapolate this out, but like you can see another half year increment. It would be somewhere like in India, ish neck of the woods. It would progress like maybe 2.5 time zones or something approximately. So yeah, if it was the Creator's International Dateline truly was out here, then we would expect the summer solstice to first be seen by people in South America or people on the West Coast. But if the Creator's International Dateline was in here somewhere, and I think it's very possible it was like right here on the west edge, that's where the data was tracking, and in a way that's kind of what modern science was saying. It's possible modern science is wrong. It's possible the data we collected is wrong. Anything's possible. But just as food for thought, I was definitely seeing the possibility, because it's kind of hard to imagine that modern science would be so far off with their timing of the equinox and solstice events. But yeah, that's kind of why we're testing all things. Is, some people want to just run with that data from modern science, but maybe that's not exactly what the timepieces are doing. Maybe they're rounding whole days or something. I don't know. But anyway, it's a long story for another time. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at avoiceoftruthandlove@gmail.com, or feel free to comment on this video. But just as food for thought, anything's possible, but I was potentially seeing that the Creator's International Dateline may have actually been right in here this past spring. And so this summer solstice event is only a couple time zones to the west of where it should have been this spring. So either people are going to start seeing it somewhere around here, like India, first, or people, like I said, in South America and America are going to see it first. So, and Africa especially. I know there's at least one truth seeker in Africa who's done solstice events before. We're going to talk about her data in a minute, just as a sample example you guys might want to try. But so this is an opportunity for us to check in the uncertainty of what happened this past year, this past spring. If we're able to confirm where that solstice event was, and if it's in here, that could definitely make a big difference for a lot of people who were living in Africa and Europe. Something to consider potentially, because maybe the Creator's International Dateline wasn't out here in the Atlantic. Maybe it was actually back here over the west part of Australia. So a solstice event can potentially help us. If we're able to confirm it, we can see maybe it will land here, and it will confirm that the international dateline, the Creator's International Dateline, was approximately here this spring. Or maybe it will land out here. Someone on the west coast of Brazil will see it first. I think that's the question. Who's going to see it first? Is Africa and Europe going to see it first, or is South America and America going to see it first? And depending on who sees the solstice event first, I think that could confirm, was the Creator's International Dateline here, or possibly was it here this past spring? It's just an additional witness, an opportunity to try to confirm, and it might be something you want to consider, take into consideration for the timing of the fall holy days. But so yeah, I think that's about it. I might just talk briefly about the recommended methods for trying to confirm the solstice event. Challenging. Okay, yeah. So yeah, just a brief explanation again of what we're looking for with the sundials. Let me see if I can find that picture. So somewhere we have our nice little demonstration here. So visual. The sun is in the sky at it appears to be more overhead during the summer, and then way far down on the horizon during the winter if you look north of the equator. And if you have an object that's casting a shadow, you'll see these three different patterns over the course of the year. You'll see a straight line during the equinox. That's what a lot of us may be familiar with at this point. But on the longest and shortest days of the year, when the sun is low or high in the sky, you're going to see these nice big curves. And so what we're looking for now is for the sun to hit this curve and start to return back this way. So we saw the sun do the straight line for the prior equinox event, And now slowly but surely it's progressing towards this position. Every day it gets a little more curve and a little more extreme in this position. You can see this faint line here probably marks maybe a solar month. The amount of time it travels in approximately 30 days. And you can see it gets less and less, and this is true. And that's one of the reasons that makes a solstice event tricky to confirm, is the movement from day to day is actually, I don't know why, but it is much less. During an equinox event, it's like from day to day when you're mapping out your data, you can see like a nice gap between one day of data compared to the next day of data. But as you get to a solstice event, the movement is so slight with a small sundial setup like this, I doubt very much you will be able to discern if the shadow has finally hit that extreme position and then started to return. Like that's what we're looking for. We're looking for this pattern, this curve, to hit the extreme position and then start to return. And you just, unfortunately, I've tried it. A lot of others have tried it. It just doesn't move enough, especially around solar noon. Like if you look here in the morning and in the evening, that gap between lines is a little wider, but as you get to solar noon, it's like tightest of all. So, but I mean, it's just really, really tight. The movement is really, really small compared to an equinox event. And I would not recommend, if you're interested in trying to confirm the solstice event, I would not recommend you use the same setup that you were using for an equinox event. I would recommend actually two different methods, and we'll look at a picture, like I said, of someone in South Africa who I think came up with a pretty good method last year. But yeah, the two methods I would try to use to confirm a solstice event are these. They're one is quite simply to pick a window in your house that is seeing the rising sun or the setting sun, and it's the evening, it's the early morning and the early morning, late evening shadows that we're looking for, because again, those are the ones that move the most. Like you can see there's the most movement between these lines here, but it's like really tight here. So anything you can do to help you see that the progression of that shadow pattern, and doing it in morning or evening as opposed to midday, is definitely something you want to try and do. So early morning, late evening, you don't have to collect data all day. You just need a window that will face the rising sun or the setting sun. Set up an object about 5 feet away from a wall so it casts a shadow on a wall or the floor. And I got a picture of a Post-it note. You could just stick a Post-it note on the window and track the corner of that Post-it note on the floor or the window. Let me see if I can find that picture. Oh, it's like a million pictures down here. I know I saw it earlier, just to show you. Oh yeah, and then towers. So here you can see all I did was I put this Post-it note on the window, and it's nice. It doesn't move as long as you don't open the window, and you're able to just track that shadow over the course of a day. That corner, you want a nice defined tip. Okay. And that's just one thing you can do. So either way, you get your window that's facing the rising or setting sun, and either put a marker like this that'll cast a shadow on the floor, or put something in the room that you know won't move or get bumped by a cat or children or something, that casts a shadow on the floor or the wall. And get it as early in the morning as you can, or as late in the evening as you can. And I'll show you a picture of that other lady sundial work in South Africa last summer. But so that's one thing, and then I recommend you get 2 points. That's all you need, like 5 minutes. So 5 minutes a day, you might be able to confirm this important checkpoint of the creator's times. So just get 1 point and then 2 points. So you really want to get at least 2 points in the morning, 5 minutes apart, so you can see the progression. Use a different color ink, or be very precise with your mark. Like try and find a way to like really get the bullseye there. You don't want a big fat dot or something with these smaller sundials. You need, for a solstice, you need to be as precise as possible. But get at least 2 points, 5 minutes a day, and you'll compare that one day to the next. So So this is just showing a couple points here. It's showing 3, but if you had 2 points one day, the next day you would probably see them slightly behind this way, like the whole pattern would drop. Like you'd see a point then down here, and then you'd see another point down here. So like if you drew a line between this point and this point, that line would be slowly scooting one way or the other, and that's what you want to see. If you only record one point, it's hard to tell which direction the data is progressing. And if you're trying to do it at like an exact moment, minute, or second of time, you could be ahead or behind. Weird things can happen. So I recommend that you get 2 points each day, just 5 minutes apart. That's all you need. 2 points, 5 minutes apart. And you connect a line between them, and then the next day you'll do the same thing, 2 points, and you'll compare the line to the line. That's what we want to do. We don't want to compare point to point because you don't really know which way it's going. Line to line, though, you can see the whole line is moving this way, the whole line is moving that way. That's what I would recommend. And then the other thing I would recommend is a tall structure. If you're interested in doing this, just let me know. I can point you to more videos. Like I used to do this. I did this a few times, and I managed to confirm at least one solstice event. It was a winter solstice event. But again, the movement, even with a tower, is very, very small at midday. So if at all possible, if you are going to use a taller sundial, try and get those early morning and late evening points, even with your taller sundial. Just look around, see what you have around you. Maybe there's tall buildings, maybe you live in the city, or maybe there are cell towers. Probably that's what I've used. But anything tall, I mean, maybe even possibly like a parking light post in a Walmart parking lot, like something that tall and on a space that big. Remember, and again, you would want 2 points. Same with the other method I described. You would want 2 points 5 minutes apart so you can compare line to line, not point to point, because point to point, different times of day, the exact minute, the exact second, weird things can happen. So you want to get 2 points on each day, draw a little line between them, and then you compare the line to the line. And you should be able to see the day where I'm not going to go all the way back, where that shadow pattern is progressing, where it hits the extreme position. Well, yeah, like this picture here. And this was actually for the very first solstice event I ever tried to confirm. But you can see as it gets the 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, it's getting it's tighter and tighter is what I was trying to draw here. But you're just watching the pattern go this way, go this way, go this way, and then one day it's going to stop, and it's going to come back this day. And if at all possible, it would be good to have 3 days of data so you can see, okay, here's one day, here's the next day, here's the next day, there's a day, and then it came back down to here on the other day. So you're able to see it returned. That's kind of the key with pinpointing a solstice there. So I guess, yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll show you the picture here. Oh, that's not the right one. This one. So if you're not, there's a link in the description below this video for where you can find all this sundial data, but it's sorted by year. You jump in here and whatever year you're interested in. So like 23, okay, and then by month. And you can see last year there were people who were collecting sundial data around the world for the solstice event. I'm just going to click on this one because this is where I think I dumped everything that came from South Africa, maybe. But this was her setup. She had a window that had sunlight coming in it in the morning, and before she went to work, she was just marking on her wall where she saw the shadow. And like I said, you'll want to make sure it's not just the side of this, and you want to make sure it's not wobbly. Whatever you use, you want to make sure it doesn't move, but you want a nice defined corner. You don't want an edge of something. You want a corner, and you want 2 points. And that way you can see the pattern, and you can see how the pattern progresses there. If you zoom in, you can kind of see. I think she was taking off the side of the post, and so I I would recommend maybe putting a sharp tip on this somewhere, and then getting those 2 points, at least 2 points, and then see how those 2 points move from day to day. Yeah. So, I mean, really, however you're able to do it, but as early in the morning and as late in the evening as possible, I think would give you the best results. So I think that's it for now. We already talked about my thoughts of where the Creators International Dateline would be. We'll just have to wait and see. We're learning. Feel free to let me know if you are planning to collect any sundial data. Leave a comment or email me at avoiceoftruthandlove@gmail.com. Or you can check out the group on Facebook. I'll be posting everything to this group. Keep this group posted as live as possible. Just one more thing I just wanted to look at. Yeah, the Modern Science is claiming the solstice event is going to happen on the 20th at 4 or something UTC. So they're projecting UTC that it's going to be UTC. So these time zones, it would be approximately. This is where they're projecting that solstice moment would occur. So we'll just have to wait and see. Maybe it'll happen over here. Maybe it'll happen over here. Like I said, this is an example of, well, the trend we were seeing and the potential that what is actually happening in the heavens, maybe modern science is pretty close to what it is, but I think we definitely need to prove it. I wouldn't recommend anyone just take their data and run with it until it can be proved. And there just hasn't been enough people around the world working to collect this data yet to prove it. I think we're getting very close. This past spring kind of threw everyone for a loop a little bit. Like, a bunch of people were thinking the Creators International Dateline was out here, which didn't match the trend we were seeing for the past equinox events. But I think there's a chance it could have been here, and it might be actually following pretty closely, if not exactly, to what modern science is projecting. But maybe not. So we'll just wait and see. Let me know. And I mean, hopefully a few people would try it. It would be interesting to see. If not, definitely please be ready this fall to confirm that next straight line. And again, it'll be kind of a similar thing. Like, we'll have the Creators International Dateline will have progressed 6 months. So did it progress maybe this far, and people in Africa are going to see it first, or if it was here, did it progress out here and people somewhere in the United States are going to see it first? So we'll have an opportunity to double check. And just let's be diligent. Let's press in. This is important work. Nothing beats making the confirmation for yourself, the peace of mind that you will have, but just to help people around the world, I think it's useful for us to be all working together to answer some questions that can help us understand more and more about our Creator's time. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions, or let me know if you're going to be collecting data. Shalom, and may Abba bless you as you continually seek His truths in love with a pure heart.